This video is for entertainment purposes only. As of January 20th, 2015, it is my personal opinion and subject to change. It cannot and should not be taken as an official or unofficial stance of either myself or any other organization or individual. I am not officially or unofficially representing any individual or organization. Consult with a professional before taking any kind of change to any kind of infrastructure. I do not accept responsibility for any system or infrastructure or any entity that may or may not be damaged at any time for any reason. Okay, please make note of that disclaimer. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be setting up the infrastructure itself. So we're not going to launch anything, or we're not going to log into anything per se. We're just going to set up the infrastructure. Do this right at this step, and it makes everything else a whole lot easier. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the VPC section of your management console, and we're going to go to the VPC dashboard, and we're going to launch the VPC wizard. Now you can do this manually if you want, but this takes a lot of the pain away. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to select VPC with public and private subnets, and we're going to click on select. The VPC, we'll call it main. Everything else is fine, so we'll go ahead and click on create VPC. Alright, so what it's doing now is it's just busy setting this up. As I said, you can do this yourself, but this just takes a whole bunch of the pain away. So we'll go ahead and we'll let this complete. It shouldn't take more than a few moments. I'd like to keep the stream as live as possible because I want you to get a sense of just how long things take. So there we go, it's just finished there. So if we go ahead and we click on OK, and you should see your main VPC there. Now there's a couple of things here that you want to make note of. Alright, the first being the VPC name. So I recommend having a text browser available. So or a little text editor available next to you, which I have on the other screen, which you can't see here. The next thing we want to note is a CCR block. Alright, and that's it for now. So then if we go to subnets, we'll see the subnets here. Now these two subnets here, they're for the default VPC. We're not using that. You can if you want to, we don't need to. We're going to go ahead and we're going to create a subnet. In this case I'm going to call it RDS. I want it in my main VPC. Right, and before we do that, actually, we want to take the private subnet and we want to see what availability zone it is, because whatever availability zone it is, we want it in the other one. So that one is in EU Central 1B. So we're going to create our subnet, and we're going to put it in EU Central 1A, and we're going to give it a CCR block rating of 10.0.3.0/24. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to click on create. Alright, so that's busy creating there. Okay, right. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go over to our RDS console, and we're going to go to subnet groups. Now what this does is this essentially links everything in. That we can delete. Alright, so you should see nothing. So go ahead and we're going to click on create, and we're going to call that RDS, and we're going to call that RDS. I want to put that into our main VPC. We're going to select EU1. There's only one subnet group there, and if you want to make sure, you can go back to your VPC. You can see there the subnet group FFB1, and that's right. Okay, so we know that's right. And then we can select B and select from the drop down. So you've got two there. We want to know which is the right one. So if we go to VPC and we go to private subnet, we can see there, it ends in 843. So if we go to the RDS statement there, we can see it over there. That's 1B, yeah. And there we go there, sorry. So that's the subnet ID there you want. 29B0 And there we go, 29B0. Putting it in the wrong subnet makes it publicly available, and that we don't want. So we go ahead and we click on add, and we click on create. Now I know here it says nothing, but if we go and refresh the page, you'll see it is there. Then we want to go back to our instances. We're now going to go to our security groups. You see, there's no security groups here. Security groups for RDS instances, they're down in the VPC section. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a new security group. So if we go to security groups there, we create a security group. We're going to call it RDS. We'll call that RDS2. Put in the main one. Yes, create. Okay. While that's creating, we'll go over to our EC2, and if we click on instances, we can see there that is our NAT instance. So we'll go ahead and we'll call that VPC main NAT. Alright. And then we're going to launch an instance, and we're going to select the Amazon AMI. T2 micro is fine. We're going to want 2 instances because we had to, if you remember in my previous video. I'm going to put in the main, and yet we want it in the public subnet. Okay, so we want both instances in our public subnet. We're going to enable auto assign a public IP. In this case, I'm not going to activate these two, but if you're using them for production purposes, it's a good idea. The rest are fine, so we're going to click on add storage. I'm going to add 10 gigabyte volume. That's so we can store our files. The operating system is kept on this one, but we want to place a store our files, so we're going to put it there. We're going to tag instance. We're going to leave that the way it is, and then going to configure security group. Now you'll see there are 2 security groups there. Neither one of us are good for us, so we're going to head on create security group, and we're going to call it website. Website. Okay. Port 22 is how you access the instance. I'm going to leave that as my IP as opposed to anywhere, because you don't want the world to access it. And we're then going to make HTTP and HTTPS available to the world. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to click on launch and review. And I've already got a key pair there, so but if you don't and you want to create one, you simply click on create, enter the name and download. But we don't need to do that, so we're going to choose an existing key pair and a website. You should never proceed without a key pair unless you have a specific use case. I've never seen one. So go ahead and we're going to click on launch and view instances. And you can see your 2 instances launching there. So we'll call this one RDS, call this one RDS, and this one local. Okay. So this is the one we want to make note of. And we want to make note of its private subnet, or its private IP. Alright, and we'll see why. So if we go to RDS, and we now go to instances, and now finally we launch our instance, we're going to select MySQL. We don't need multi-AZ for the moment. If you're using production, you want it. Click next step. We're going to ask for T2 small, multi-AZ deployment. We don't need that. That's fine. DB identifier, we'll just call that main. You should never actually have your master username as root, but this is just demonstration purposes. Okay, that's fine. Scroll down, we'll click on next step. We'll click on that. There you got your main VPC there. Subnet group, that's fine, that's fine. Security group RDS, and everything else is fine. So if we scroll down and we click on launch DB. Alright, so it's there, it's busy creating, it's busy launching. Now if we go back to the VPC, you can see the subnet group that we created there. We're going to go to inbound rules, we're going to edit that. Alright, and we're going to allow MySQL, and we're going to put in the subnet of the instance that's in the public subnet. Okay, and okay, we're going to put in the private subnet of the RDS instance. All right, And here we can see that it doesn't like that CCR block. Okay, so let's take a look and see what's wrong with it. Well, if we go back to our EC2 instance, you can see the RDS is there. Okay, that appears to be alright. There seems to be nothing wrong with that, so that is fine. And if we go slash, and we go 32, and we click on save, there we go, now it's saved. So what it's done there is it's saved everything. Alright? So what's happened here is that the RDS instance it's currently creating will only accept incoming rules from this VP, from this security group, which it will only allow connections from port 3306, which is your MySQL, on that IP address, which is this instance here. Alright, so that's the infrastructure done. Now we want to test this out. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to click on that. We're going to click on connect, and this gives us all the instructions on how to connect to the instance. So if I open up a terminal, and I got my downloads folder, right, and we can keep it nice and simple. Tell us what to do there. Okay, and there's our SSH client. So we just click, put that in, and we type yes. And here we are. Alright, so if we log out of there, we close that, and we go to our next one, and we connect to that. We put that in there, and we click on yes. And there it is there. Okay, now, I'm not going to demonstrate connecting to the RDS instance yet, purely because that requires a MySQL client that isn't installed, and that will only be installed in in a few videos from now. So, in my next video, I'm going to go through the scripts that I'm going to be using to install everything. Using scripts is a very good idea, and I highly recommend doing it. So join me in my next video where I'll go through the code. The reason why we're going through the code first before actually executing it is because it's just a good idea that you do that. You should never actually be running a script when you haven't at least reviewed the code and seen what it does. So join me in my next video when we go ahead and review the code. I'll put a link to the GitHub project where all my code is stored if you want to have a look at it between now and then. And the video after that, we will actually get started and building things. I hope this has been informative, and I look forward to seeing you again.